Okay, imagine this. What if you could run a business where you get to focus only on the part you're great at, and somebody else takes on all the stuff that could totally sink your ship? Well, today we're going to dive deep into a franchise model that's trying to do exactly that, but for an industry that is, let's be honest, notoriously tough. All right, let's kick things off with a real head scratcher. We're talking about the cost per lead market. The CPL market. It's where businesses basically pay for hot leads on new customers. Now, you've got tons of companies who need leads and a whole world of call centers ready to provide them. It sounds like a perfect match, right? Supply, demand, it should just work. So here's the million-dollar question. Why do so many of these businesses crash and burn? So the obvious answer is, maybe it's bad managers or the agents aren't great. But that's really not the whole picture. The real problem is systemic. It's literally baked into the DNA of the industry. And as we're going to see, failure isn't a bug in the old model, it's a feature. Right. The problem isn't the people doing the work. It's the system they're working in. Think about it. Even the absolute best CPL operators out there are on this crazy tightrope. They have to juggle generating leads, making sure they're compliant with a million rules, and then chasing down payments, all while trying to deliver top-notch quality. It's like telling a world-class chef, hey, you also need to be the lawyer, the accountant, and the debt collector for the restaurant. I mean, how could you succeed? No matter how amazing their food is, all that other stuff is going to bring the whole place down. And this brings us to what I like to call the four horsemen of the CPL apocalypse. First up, you've got payment risk. You deliver the leads, but will you get paid on time or at all? Your cash flow is a total nightmare. Then there's compliance. One tiny regulatory mistake, boom, you could be shut down overnight. Next, buyer dependency. You land a whale, one huge client. Great, right? Well, if they leave, your entire business evaporates. And finally, there's no real standardization. Quality is all over the place, which just erodes any trust you try to build. These aren't just little problems, you guys. These are fundamental cracks in the foundation. Okay, so if the very foundation of the building is cracked, you can't just slap on a new coat of paint and call it a day, right? You need a totally new blueprint. And that's exactly what TCL did. They went back to the drawing board, and their entire solution is built on one core insight that honestly changes the entire game. And this is such a critical point. Incremental improvements just can't fix a deep structural problem. Getting slightly better scripts or some new fancy software, that's just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. It doesn't matter. The core issue is that the whole structure is fundamentally misaligned, and that's the thing you have to fix. And here it is. This is the big idea, the foundational insight behind the whole top-class leads, or TCL system. The quote says it all. CPL businesses fail not because of poor execution, but because production, selling, compliance, and collections are structurally misaligned. Let that sink in. It's not about your team working harder or being better. It's about the fact that the jobs of making the leads, selling them, making sure they're compliant, and then collecting the money, those things are all in conflict with each other. TCL's big idea was simple: separate them. So that's the theory, but how do you actually put that into practice? Well, TCL created what they call a two-layer operating system. It's basically a very intentional separation of powers, totally redefining who is responsible for what. And this chart really lays it out perfectly. Look at the left side, the franchise layer. That's your world. You focus on what you're a rock star at: hiring great people, managing your call center, executing the scripts, and just plain delivering quality. Now look at the right side. That's TCL's job. All the big, scary, systemic stuff: finding the buyers, negotiating contracts, managing pricing, all the compliance headaches, and yes, collecting the money. That's on them. You get to be the master of execution. They handle the governance and the risk. And this is what they call the risk firewall. And honestly, this is a total game changer. Just think about it. TCL absorbs the risk of a buyer not paying. They absorb the risk of interpreting some complicated new regulation. They absorb the risk of pricing going haywire. In the old world, any one of those things could put you out of business. But here, they're behind the firewall. What's left for you? The one thing you can control: operational execution risk. Basically, doing a good job. You're shielded from everything else. So, okay, you've got this incredible risk firewall. What does that actually mean for your business? Well, it means you can actually build for the long term. You can scale. It creates stability in an industry that's famous for being a roller coaster. So let's talk about how this whole thing is designed for success. Now, it's really important to be clear about what TCL is, and maybe more importantly, what it is not. This is not some open marketplace for leads. It's a governed production platform. It's not a passive investment where you just park your money. No way. This is a system for active operators. And it's not a geographic franchise where you own a city. It's a scalable operating system where buyers learn to trust the system, not just you personally. So why does this model actually get stronger as it gets bigger when the old model just breaks? Well, it's because governance comes before volume. The controls are built in from the very start. You don't get to expand until you pass through quality gates that prove you're stable. Compliance is handled centrally, so it's uniform for everyone. And all of this leads to the most important part. Buyers trust the institution, the TCL system itself, not just one single relationship with one operator. That's how you scale. All right, let's talk money, because this is really the core of their philosophy. Look at this. No franchise development fees, no territory premiums, no empty promises of guaranteed volume. TCL's revenue is generated only when you, the franchisee, produce compliant leads that the buyers accept and actually pay for. Think about what that means. Their incentives are perfectly 100% aligned with yours. They don't make a single penny unless you are succeeding. They only win when you win. It's that simple. So where are they starting with this model? They're initially focused on the final expense insurance market. And believe me, that is not an accident. This is a space that is super regulated and rewards discipline, auditability, and trust above all else. It's basically the perfect arena to prove that a system built on compliance and consistency can really thrive. So when you boil it all down, you get to a pretty clear conclusion. This model, it's not for everyone. It's not for speculators who are just looking for a quick flip. This system is purpose-built for true operators, for people who love the process of building a team, managing a process, and running a really tight ship. And that brings us to the final provocative question you really have to ask yourself. Are you an operator or are you a speculator? This whole system is betting on the operators.